If you committed a crime in Edo, Japan, a living hell known as Kodemmachō Prison awaited you. It was a place where food was scarce, filth covered everything, and inmates often hovered between life and death for months. But more than the inhumane conditions, what truly drove prisoners to despair was the brutal torture officially sanctioned by the shogunate. Why did Kodemmachō become hell? What tortures were inflicted? And what was its ultimate fate? Join us as we uncover the truth of Kodemmachō Prison, buried deep within the darkness of Edo. In this feature, we will detail the specific torture methods and the social context of the time. Kodemmachō Prison was located in what is now Tokyo's Chuo Ward, and it was the largest prison in Edo. The site spanned approximately 7,800 tsubo, about 6.4 acres, faced the Koshu Kaido, and was strictly encircled by double walls and moats. Inside, it was divided into multiple sections, including the Dairo, for serious criminals, and the Agiya, for high-ranking samurai. The Dairo, in particular, was severely overcrowded, with dozens of people crammed into a single room, making it impossible to even lie down properly. The prisoners ranged from serious offenders like thieves, gamblers, and rapists, to those who had merely engaged in minor quarrels in town. Remarkably, prisons at the time were primarily for detaining unconvicted suspects. Convicted criminals were tried and sentenced by the magistrate's office. This meant that many prisoners, despite not yet being found guilty, were subjected to hellish conditions. Meals were provided twice a day, consisting only of a small portion of barley rice and soup. Malnutrition was a common occurrence. Winters brought freezing cold, summers a suffocating heat. Sanitary conditions were abysmal, and epidemics were frequent. Once a contagious disease broke out, it quickly claimed the lives of many prisoners, creating a scene of absolute chaos and despair. Even within such a prison, there existed a boss among the inmates known as a Ronanushi, prison master, wielding immense power. The Ronanushi would bully newcomers, seize their food, and sometimes torment disliked prisoners with acts akin to torture. They colluded with prison guards, monopolizing external provisions and further deepening the prison's darkness. It's said that the shogunate partially condoned the Ronanushi's rule, turning a blind eye due to the difficulty of management. However, the true hell was the torture directed at those who denied their crimes or were viewed unfavorably by the magistrate's office. Torture in the Edo period was legally practiced to extract confessions. It was known as Seme. There were three types of Seme, beginning with the relatively mild ishidaki, or stone hugging. Prisoners were forced to sit seiza-style, with heavy stones placed on their knees. Unimaginable pain racked their entire bodies. If the crime was deemed more severe, the torture escalated to even crueler methods, such as water torture or tsurushizumi, hanging torture. Tsurushizumi involved tying the prisoner's hands, hoisting them from the ceiling, and attaching weights to their feet. Torture focused not only on inflicting physical pain but also on instilling psychological terror. It's said that female prisoners, in particular, were subjected to even more inhumane forms of torture. Persuaded that a confession might lighten their sentence, many, unable to endure the pain, made false confessions. However, once a confession was made, it was incredibly difficult to retract, even in cases of wrongful accusation. The purpose of torture might have been less about uncovering the truth and more about swiftly resolving cases and maintaining order. Edo period justice was deeply rooted in a confession-centric system, prioritizing confessions over evidence. Even if a prisoner died during torture, it was often recorded as death in prison, and the torturers were rarely held accountable. Consequently, torture tended to escalate, and it was not uncommon for innocent people to lose their lives. Records of such torture remain in official documents of the time and in the writings of those who actually experienced imprisonment. These records detail some of the most barbaric acts humans inflicted upon one another, acts utterly unacceptable in modern times. However, in the late Edo period, with the nascent ideas of human rights, criticism of these inhumane tortures began to emerge. Notably, During the Kansei reforms led by Matsudaira Sadanobu, some improvements were made to prison conditions, and torture methods were partially re-evaluated. Yet, the fundamental system remained unchanged, and the old justice system persisted until the Meiji Restoration. Entering the Meiji era, Kodemmachō Prison's role was transferred to Ichigaya Prison, transforming into a modern penal institution. By the Taisho era, its physical presence had completely vanished, bringing its hellish history to a close. There existed a harsh reality, unimaginable to us living in modern times. Many who suffered for false crimes, many who succumbed to the infernal torture, faded into the shadows of history. Their desperate cries echo silently today, a historical lesson never to be repeated. Why did Kodemmachō become hell? It was due to the historical context and the immaturity of the justice system. What tortures were inflicted? Brutal Seme methods like ishidaki, stone hugging, mizuzimi, water torture, and tsurushizimi, hanging torture, were legally carried out. And what was its ultimate fate? Many prisoners lost their lives to wrongful accusations and torture, buried in history as a true hell. The hell of Kodemmachō Prison may have been a mirror, reflecting the negative aspects of humanity created by the society of its time.